In today's video, we take a thoughtful look at the lives and legacies of 19 African-American LGBTQ+ artists whose journeys left a profound mark on Hollywood history. Many of them created groundbreaking art while navigating eras that did not always offer understanding or acceptance. Their paths were often layered with complexity, balancing public acclaim with deeply personal realities. As we revisit their stories, you may find yourself surprised by the contrasts between the spotlight they stood in and the private challenges they quietly endured. Did you know that one rock and roll icon entered a highly publicized marriage during a time of intense scrutiny while privately wrestling with matters of identity? Or that some artists, despite their immense cultural influence, experienced periods of profound isolation that revealed how far society still had to grow? Behind the timeless music, the unforgettable performances, and the glittering careers are human stories shaped by resilience, creativity, and the search for authenticity. This is not about sensationalism. It is about understanding the context of their lives, honoring their contributions, and recognizing how their courage helped open doors for future generations. As we explore these powerful narratives, you may begin to see Hollywood history through a different lens, one that acknowledges both the brilliance and the barriers these artists faced, and invites us to reflect on how far we have come and how far we still aspire to go. If you believe these voices deserve to be remembered and their journeys honored, leave a 1 in the comments below. If you see things from a different perspective or have insights to add, feel free to share a 0 and tell us what you think. Every thoughtful viewpoint adds depth to the conversation. And if you value meaningful storytelling that explores history, culture, and the human spirit, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to help this community continue growing. Your support allows us to keep uncovering powerful narratives that educate, inspire, and spark reflection. Now, let's begin this journey together and discover the stories waiting to be told. In the late 1980s, Eazy-E-born Eric Lynn Wright rose to prominence alongside N.W.A., helping ignite a transformative movement in hip-hop that reshaped the cultural landscape. Celebrated for his fearless voice and entrepreneurial vision, he quickly became an icon whose influence extended far beyond music. Yet, like many public figures navigating intense fame, his personal life was often surrounded by speculation and rumor. The weight of public scrutiny, combined with the expectations of both society and the rap community, created pressures that few could truly understand from the outside. In March 1995, he entered into marriage in Los Angeles during a period of heightened attention, a decision that reflected the complex intersection between private identity and public image. Shortly before that time, while working late in the studio, he experienced a sudden health crisis that shocked fans and collaborators alike. The unexpected turn of events sparked widespread discussion, much of it fueled by conjecture rather than verified fact. What remains undeniable, however, is the profound cultural impact he left behind, a legacy built on artistic boldness and an unfiltered reflection of his environment. His story reminds us how fame can magnify both triumph and vulnerability, and how the human experience behind legendary status is often far more intricate than headlines suggest. After being admitted to the hospital, Eazy-E received devastating news. He had been diagnosed with advanced HIV/AIDS. The announcement stunned both him and the public, as he had continued working and appearing active until shortly before his hospitalization. Within days, his condition declined rapidly, highlighting how little was widely understood about the illness at the time, and how limited treatment options were in the mid-1990s. In the final weeks of his life, many rumors circulated, stories fueled by grief, confusion, and the human tendency to search for someone or something to blame. However, there has never been verified evidence supporting claims that any single encounter or individual was responsible for his diagnosis. Medical experts have consistently emphasized that HIV is a virus transmitted through specific biological pathways over time, not the result of a single dramatic moment. Eazy-E passed away on the 26th of March 1995, leaving behind a complex legacy as a pioneering force in hip-hop and as one of the most prominent public figures at the time to openly address an HIV diagnosis. His final public statement encouraged awareness, education, and safer choices, a reminder that beyond fame and controversy, real lives are shaped by health, vulnerability, and the need for compassion. His story remains a powerful chapter in music history, not only for its cultural impact, but also for the conversations it helped bring into the open. A few days after being hospitalized, Eazy-E passed away on the 26th of March 1995. His death marked not only the end of a groundbreaking career, but the beginning of countless unanswered questions. In the days that followed, rumors spread quickly, fueled by shock and disbelief. Some spoke of hidden tensions, others of fate moving too fast to comprehend. Yet beyond speculation, one truth remains clear. His sudden passing left a cultural void that could never be filled. Was it simply a tragic twist of destiny, or the consequence of pressures too heavy to carry? Decades later, the mystery may linger in conversation, but his impact on music history stands undeniable. In the late 1970s, Sylvester, known as the Queen of Disco, became a dazzling icon with his soaring falsetto and fearless spirit. His music radiated freedom, lighting up dance floors and hearts alike. But behind the glitter and spotlight, his world revolved around one person, Rick Cranmer. In 1987, their happiness shifted abruptly when Rick became seriously ill. In a small apartment in San Francisco's Castro district, joy turned into quiet uncertainty. Doctors confirmed Rick had HIV/AIDS at a time when hope felt painfully limited. What remained was not the glamour of disco, but love standing still in the face of an unforgiving reality. Shortly after Rick's diagnosis, Sylvester also learned that he was living with HIV news that marked the beginning of an intensely difficult chapter for them both. What followed was not a dramatic spectacle, but a quiet struggle defined by hospital visits, fragile hope, and unwavering devotion. Through uncertainty and fear, they held on to each other, believing in strength even when the odds felt overwhelming. Only weeks later, Rick passed away, leaving behind a silence that no spotlight could fill. For Sylvester, the loss was immeasurable, not just the passing of a partner, but the absence of the one person who had grounded him beyond the stage lights and applause. In that moment, the music paused, and what remained was love, memory, and a heart learning how to carry both. On the 10th of December 1988, at San Francisco General Hospital, Sylvester spent his final hours surrounded by quiet reflection as complications from HIV. AIDS had taken a heavy toll on his body. The once electrifying voice that filled dance floors now rested in a still hospital room where memories seemed louder than sound itself. That afternoon, he requested to hear Patti LaBelle's "You Are My Friend," a song whose lyrics spoke of loyalty and enduring connection. As it played softly, the moment carried a sense of peaceful closure rather than spectacle. Minutes later, Sylvester passed away, bringing to an end a life that had shimmered with artistry, courage, and cultural impact. His departure marked not only the loss of a remarkable performer, but of a pioneer whose music offered light to countless listeners searching for affirmation and freedom. Though his voice grew silent, the resonance of his legacy continues echoing through generations who still find strength in the rhythm he left behind. Jermaine Stewart, a standout voice in the R&B and pop landscape of the 1980s, rose to fame with the unforgettable hit, "We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off." His smooth vocals and polished image made him a familiar face on television and radio, embodying confidence and charm. Yet behind the spotlight, he lived with layers of privacy that reflected the era's pressures and unspoken realities. Like many artists of his time, Jermaine carefully guarded his personal life while navigating the growing impact of the HIV/AIDS crisis. Maintaining a poised public presence required resilience, especially in an industry where image often overshadowed vulnerability. His story is not simply one of hidden struggle, but of quiet strength, a reminder that behind chart-topping success can exist deeply human challenges that few ever see. By December 1996, Following a performance in Chicago, Jermaine began experiencing serious health complications. Persistent fevers and overwhelming fatigue made even simple movements difficult. Yet he remained gracious with supporters, offering smiles and brief conversations before quietly stepping away from the spotlight. Those who saw him that night sensed his strength but not the full weight he was carrying. As his condition worsened, Jermaine was deeply aware of how fragile public perception could be in the entertainment world. At a time when conversations about HIV were still surrounded by stigma, many artists feared being defined by illness rather than by their work. His hesitation to seek immediate medical attention reflected not vanity, but the intense pressure to protect a career built over years of dedication. Behind the stage lights stood a man balancing talent, privacy, and vulnerability in an era that did not always allow space for all three. On the 17th of March, 1997, as spring quietly unfolded, Jermaine reached the limits of his strength. Complications from illness had grown more severe, and in the early hours of the morning, his life came to a close. Though the exact details of his final moments remain private, what is known is that he passed away far from the bright stages that once defined him. His death marked a somber moment for the music community, not only because of the talent that was lost, but because it reflected the heavy realities many artists of that era faced in silence. The polished image audiences admired often required immense personal sacrifice. Jermaine's journey stands as a powerful reminder of the tension between public success and private vulnerability, and of the importance of compassion, openness, and understanding in a world where image can sometimes overshadow humanity. In the early 1950s, Dorothy Dandridge emerged as a luminous presence in a deeply segregated Hollywood, captivating audiences with her unforgettable performance in Carmen Jones. In 1954, she made history as the first Black woman nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress, a milestone that symbolized possibility in an industry slow to change. Her elegance and talent placed her at the center of attention, yet the world she moved through was layered with rigid expectations and silent boundaries. Like many public figures of her era, Dorothy's personal life was often shielded from view. Hollywood at the time operated under strict codes, both spoken and unspoken, that left little room for authenticity outside prescribed norms. Rumors and private friendships were frequently magnified by gossip, whether grounded in fact or not. What remains clear is that Dorothy navigated fame in a period when identity, race, and gender were scrutinized intensely, and deviation from expectation could carry serious consequences. Her story reflects not only artistic triumph, but also the emotional complexity of living within a system that demanded perfection while limiting freedom. Beyond speculation, her legacy endures as one of courage, talent, and groundbreaking achievement, a reminder of how far the industry has come and how much strength it once required simply to stand in the spotlight. On the 22nd of September 1959, Dorothy entered a marriage during a period when personal and professional pressures often shaped life decisions in ways the public could not see. The ceremony, held in Beverly Hills, reflected the formal expectations placed upon a rising star whose image was carefully managed. Yet behind the composed exterior, her emotional world was likely far more complex than headlines suggested. In the weeks that followed, she continued navigating both career demands and private reflection. Hollywood in that era allowed little space for vulnerability, especially for a woman already carrying the weight of breaking racial barriers. Stories of secret meetings and hidden romances have circulated over the years, but documented history speaks more clearly of the intense pressures she endured: financial strain, industry, politics, and the loneliness that can accompany fame. What remains undeniable is that Dorothy's life moved through both brilliance and hardship. Her journey was shaped not only by love or loss, but by the expectations of an unforgiving system. The heartbeat of her legacy lies not in whispered drama, but in the courage it took to rise, shine, and persist in a world that offered her so little room to simply be. In the years that followed, Dorothy faced mounting personal and professional pressures. Like many performers of that era, She was prescribed medication to cope with anxiety and exhaustion, a reflection of how studios often prioritized image over well-being. Beneath the glamour, she struggled with financial strain, industry setbacks, and the isolation that can accompany fame. On the 8th of September 1965, Dorothy Dandridge was found deceased in her Hollywood apartment. Her passing was officially ruled an accidental overdose. While speculation has lingered for decades, no verified evidence has ever supported claims of conspiracy or hidden hands behind her death. What remains far more powerful than rumor is the reality of the immense burdens she carried in a racially divided industry that offered limited support to trailblazers. Dorothy's life stands as both brilliance and caution, a reminder of how systemic barriers and relentless pressure can weigh heavily on even the brightest stars. Rather than searching for shadows, perhaps the more meaningful question is how her groundbreaking achievements reshaped Hollywood and how her legacy continues to inspire conversations about equity, compassion, and the human cost of fame. Kenny Green, a gifted voice in 1990s R&B, left a lasting imprint on the genre through both performance and songwriting. As a member of the group Intro and as a writer, he helped shape memorable tracks recorded by artists such as Mary J. Blige, including Reminisce and Love No Limit. His smooth tone and lyrical sensitivity brought emotional depth to the era's sound, earning respect within the industry even when he remained out of the loudest spotlight. Behind the music, however, Kenny navigated a deeply personal journey. During the 1990s, conversations around sexuality in mainstream R&B were often constrained by stigma and misunderstanding. Many artists felt pressure to guard their private lives to protect their careers. Kenny, like others of his time, balanced creativity with caution, choosing privacy in a climate that did not always welcome openness. His story reflects more than secrecy. It highlights the complex intersection of identity, art, and societal expectation. While his life was marked by challenges, his musical contributions continue to resonate, a reminder that authenticity can live within the art itself, even when the artist feels compelled to remain in the shadows. In the mid-1990s, Kenny's personal life remained largely private, shaped by an era when many artists felt compelled to guard their identities closely. Stories of quiet reunions and unresolved emotions have circulated over time, but what is documented is that he later faced serious health challenges. By the summer of 2001, his condition had worsened, and he was hospitalized. Doctors confirmed he was living with complications related to HIV/AIDS, a diagnosis that, at the time, still carried heavy stigma within parts of the industry. Concerned about how the news might affect those around him and the legacy of Intro, Kenny initially chose discretion. Yet before his passing, he spoke openly about identity and self-acceptance, expressing that love and authenticity were not things to regret. On the 1st of October 2001, Kenny Green passed away at Mount Sinai Hospital. His story is not defined by secrecy or sorrow alone, but by artistic contribution and personal courage. Through his music and later honesty, he helped push forward conversations about acceptance in a genre that was still learning how to embrace diversity. His voice may have faded, but the message of living truthfully continues to resonate. In the days following his passing, accounts suggest that Kenny's farewell was modest and deeply private. Public records do not clearly detail every aspect of the arrangements, and some stories have grown through word of mouth over time. What is certain is that his departure did not receive the large public tribute many felt his talent deserved. A small circle of friends and colleagues gathered to honor him, offering quiet gratitude for the music he left behind. Laid to rest in Brooklyn, far from the stages where his voice once soared, Kenny's final chapter reflected both the love of those who stood by him and the silence that can surround difficult conversations. His story has since become part of a broader reflection on how stigma once shaped the experiences of many artists living with HIV/AIDS. Rather than a tale of rejection alone, his legacy now stands as a reminder of progress, of how openness, awareness, and compassion continue to grow. The light he shared through song endures, inviting a world that once struggled with understanding to listen more closely and to respond with empathy instead of fear. Langston Hughes, one of the most influential voices of the Harlem Renaissance, gifted the world-enduring works such as The Weary Blues, 1926, capturing the rhythm, struggle, and hope of a generation. His poetry carried emotional depth and cultural pride, helping redefine American literature. Yet, like many writers of his era, Hughes maintained a carefully guarded private life. He shared a complex and meaningful friendship with fellow poet Countee Cullen, a bond rooted in artistic exchange, intellectual respect, and shared experience within the Harlem creative community. Over the years, scholars have discussed the nuances of Hughes's personal life, but much remains a matter of interpretation rather than confirmed fact. What is clear is that both men navigated a period when personal identity, especially concerning sexuality, was rarely discussed openly in public spheres. Hughes's legacy rests not on speculation, but on the power of his words. His poetry continues to resonate because it speaks to universal longing for dignity, for freedom, and for belonging. Whatever truths he chose to keep private, the honesty of his art remains unmistakable, inviting readers to feel deeply and think boldly long after his time. In 1943, amid the vibrant gatherings of Harlem's literary circles, Langston Hughes and Countee Cullen continued a friendship shaped by shared artistry and intellectual exchange. The creative community of that era was filled with intense emotion, rivalry, admiration, and shifting personal dynamics. While stories have emerged over time imagining deeply romantic tension between them, historians have found no confirmed evidence of a secret relationship or dramatic betrayal. What is documented, however, is that both men navigated complicated personal lives within a society that offered limited space for openness. Hughes's career continued to rise in the decades that followed, producing essays, poems, and plays that strengthened his place in American literature. Like many artists, he experienced periods of disappointment and introspection, emotions that often deepened the texture of his writing rather than diminished it. His work frequently explored longing, resilience, identity, and the quiet ache of unrealized dreams, themes that resonated far beyond any single personal story. Rather than a tale defined by heartbreak alone, Hughes's life reflects the complexity of being both a public voice and a private individual. His poetry endures not because of hidden tragedy, but because it captures the universal human search for connection, dignity, and meaning, a legacy far stronger than rumor and far more lasting than sorrow. As his health declined due to complications from prostate cancer, Langston Hughes passed away on the 22nd of May, 1967, in New York City. While details of his final hours remain private, what endures is the extraordinary body of work he left behind: poems, essays, and plays that continue to echo across generations. His departure marked the close of a defining chapter in American literature, yet it did not silence his voice. In the years that followed, discussions emerged about unpublished writings and the more personal dimensions of his life. Scholars have long examined his letters and manuscripts, though no verified evidence confirms the existence of a hidden collection suppressed to protect his image. As with many historic figures, speculation often grows where documentation is incomplete. What remains certain is that Hughes carefully managed his public persona during a time when privacy was both protection and necessity. His story ultimately transcends rumor. It speaks to the tension between public achievement and private complexity, a balance many artists quietly navigate. More than a tale of secrecy, Langston Hughes's life stands as a testament to the power of art to carry emotion, longing, and truth beyond the limits of biography. Through his words, he continues to affirm that poetry can reveal the depth of the human spirit, even when history leaves some questions unanswered. Billie Holiday, one of the most unforgettable voices in jazz, transformed personal hardship into music that resonated across generations. Through songs of longing and social struggle, she gave emotional depth to the American songbook and left an indelible mark on cultural history. Yet, like many public figures of her era, her private life was often surrounded by rumor and speculation. Over the years, stories have circulated about her connections within artistic circles, including a well-known friendship with actress Tallulah Bankhead. While both women moved within bold and unconventional creative communities, there is no confirmed historical evidence of a secret romantic relationship between them. Hollywood and New York's nightlife scenes in the mid-20th century were filled with intense personalities, shifting alliances, and public curiosity elements that often blurred the line between fact and imagination. What remains undeniable is that Billie navigated fame under constant scrutiny. The pressures of performance, personal relationships, and societal judgment shaped much of her emotional world. Rather than focusing on dramatic conjecture, her legacy shines brightest through her music songs that captured vulnerability, resilience, and raw truth. In the end, it was her voice, not whispered stories, that revealed the deepest parts of her soul. The emotional weight Billie carried throughout her life was immense, shaped by turbulent relationships, public scrutiny, and the lasting impact of discrimination. Like many artists facing overwhelming pressure, she struggled with substance dependence, a battle that affected both her health and her career. Her vulnerabilities were not born from a single moment of heartbreak, but from years of hardship layered upon extraordinary talent. On the 17th of July, 1959, at the age of 44, Billie Holiday passed away at Metropolitan Hospital in New York due to complications related to liver and heart disease. In her final days, she was under legal supervision connected to prior narcotics charges, a stark reflection of how the justice system of that era treated addiction as a crime rather than a health crisis. The image of officers stationed outside her hospital room remains one of the most sobering symbols of her difficult final chapter. Her death marked more than the loss of a musical pioneer. It exposed the harsh realities faced by artists battling personal struggles under public judgment. Yet beyond pain and controversy, Billie's legacy endures through her voice, a voice that transformed suffering into art and continues to move listeners decades later. Billie Holiday's passing marked a deeply painful chapter in music history, a life shaped by extraordinary talent, yet burdened by discrimination, addiction, and relentless public scrutiny. Her story reflects not humiliation, but the harsh realities many artists of her time endured in silence. Beyond the headlines and controversy, she remains a powerful symbol of resilience, a voice that transformed suffering into timeless art and forced society to confront uncomfortable truths. If her journey moves you, leave a 1 in the comments below. If you see it differently or have more to reflect on, share a thoughtful 0, and let's continue the conversation with respect and insight. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel so that the legacies of influential figures like Billie Holiday continue to be remembered with depth and dignity. Now, let's move forward and uncover the next chapter in the stories behind the spotlight.